This was Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and I told you I would, so here it is. This is a smackdown, but not in the aggressive iPhone versus Galaxy kind of way that, we might do in the past, but a comparison to help you decide between these two very cutting-edge and expensive phones. This is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 2 5G, let's just call it the Fold 2, and this is the Microsoft Surface Duo. Both of these transform into a tablet, but, well, one of them is more tablet-y than the other, so we're going to talk about that now. Okay, so perhaps the most important thing, but maybe not, because if you're considering either of these, you're probably not the most price-sensitive person in the world, but there is price. The Galaxy Z Fold 2 5G is $2,000, which is monumental and mind-boggling, and that's something to be talked about in its full review, isn't it? And the Surface Duo is $1,399, so $1,400. But if you want the 256 gigs of storage that you get in the Z Fold, then you're looking at $1,499, so yeah, $1,500. So it's expensive, but anyway, we're talking $500–600 cheaper. So some of the things that are missing from the Duo, we can forgive because, well, it's a lot less expensive. Also, for those of you who are doing those trade-in deals, Microsoft's a little bit more generous with the amount of money they're giving. For example, say you have a Galaxy Note 10 Plus from last year, and for you pen-centric people, you might actually be thinking about going from a Note to a Duo, right? Well, Microsoft will give you $650 for that, whereas Samsung will only give you $500. I think they have less margin on the Samsung, that's why. So there you go. If you're price-sensitive at all, and these are a stretch for you, so obviously the Duo is the more attainable and the less expensive one. Then there's durability. So, Samsung describes the Folds and the Z Flips as tough yet tender. So what they mean is it's pretty darn durable. You've seen people abusing them and all that sort of thing, and they survive. You've seen a few that actually did crack in the flexible crease area. But for the most part, I've owned the Fold since it came out. I've owned the Z Flip since it first came out, and they're fine. They look pretty pristine. I treat them nicely, but not that carefully. I put them in my pocket. I even put the Z Flip in my pocket without folding it first. But the catch here is no poking at the screen, people. Keep your fingernails short, and you can't use a stylus. So that's where the Duo comes in. It's Gorilla Glass 5 on all surfaces, and you can use the Surface Pen. So if the pen is important to you, well, the Surface is the obvious choice. But beyond that, there's also the durability of it. You can poke at it. It doesn't matter how long or short your fingernails are, all that sort of thing. You're playing games and you're bum, 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 bum on the screen with your thumbs or something like that. It's your typical glass slab phone. It's going to survive that. Neither of these is IP68 water resistant. I kind of thought maybe the Surface Duo would be, but guess they couldn't seal the hinges. I don't know. Anyway, but obviously it's still a typical glass slab phone, which means I wipe it down with a very damp cloth to clean off the germs and all that sort of thing, whereas I'm much more careful about cleaning the Fold because it's not so sealed. So there's the obvious win for Surface Duo, and it's going to have a challenging time in a smackdown, so it needs its wins. The next thing would be, how do you want to use this? And as Tony ABC said to me on Twitter, hey, Tony, if you're watching this, it's the difference between at work, for example, he said he has dual monitors set up, right? And he feels very productive that way. And at home, he has one single big screen monitor. So for those of you who have the luxury of having tried both of those setups, you know who you are and which you prefer. Now, that gets down to use case, too. So say Tony maybe likes his dual screen monitors at work because he is in the business of being productive at work, isn't he? He can have his email going in one window and his Slack or his Word document or whatever it is he does for a living on the other screen, right? But when you get home, maybe you're not the kind of person that multitasks a lot. Maybe you just want to kick back and play games on your big monitor, and maybe you just want to watch videos. That's what the Galaxy Z Fold is about. It's pretty much about monotasking on a big screen. Whereas the Surface Duo, and do watch my review of it. I know it's long, but you'll see a whole lot of great use cases about why I discovered what a great device it could be too. But the fact that I can, even if I'm using a single program for those that support spanning, I'm using Outlook and I've got the list of emails on one side, I've got the message pane over here, or you've got the example I use of having a baby monitor running in one screen and whatever else you wanted to do on the other screen. And game walkthroughs on YouTube in one and Discord in the other. There's a lot of things where you feel productive. And that comes from the aspect ratios and the sizes of these phones. I mean, look at them. It's very obvious, right? The Samsung is a very tall, skinny candy bar. So if you want to multitask on that, and there is software-based multitasking that's not compatible with all apps and all that sort of thing, you're still stuck with two apps in very narrow windows. I mean, you can rotate the device and it gets a little bit better. It's not ideal. The software is something that Samsung has worked on for years, and it's okay, but it's not something I think a lot of people use just because it's not that great. Whereas you get the wider screen, that 4:3 aspect ratio ×2 on the Duo, and you feel really comfy. And you kind of, when you go back to a regular phone, because they're all, you know, that tall, skinny aspect ratio, not as much as the Fold perhaps when it's closed, but, and you feel like, man, I'm crammed in. Why is everything so narrow? So it's really just great for immersing yourself in two apps very easily. But the drawback is it's also wider to hold. So it's something like I say, you know, yes, I have big enough hands to do this till the cows come home, but I think a lot of people will be more comfortable holding it like this. And even if you want to use it in phone mode with both screens out, glass on either side, what does it matter? This is the way to hold it. Whereas this one here, eminently easy to hold. It's narrower than the average phone, but it's a lot thicker too. Well, because it's kind of still two phones glued together, right? So it's a handhold, but I think a lot of people would find this easier. It is a lot heavier, and it's a density of design. So this is significantly heavier than the Duo as well. So it's probably not as pleasant a carry, but yeah, they're both pretty tall. They're both going to stick out of your pockets. So there's that. When I'm talking about the thickness or the thinness of them, that's what makes the Duo so amazing and easy to hold and use and feel very balanced. The fact that you've got the symmetrical design and you've got something that is 4.8 millimeters thick. So it's folded not much thicker than your average normal phone already, and it weighs a bit less. So that actually, well, adds to the ergonomics in a good way for the Duo. But now you know the difference there about which one you're going to have to deal with in what way. I think the most important thing is going to be whether you embrace that new paradigm that Microsoft introduced, because we've only been doing one thing on our phone at a time because we had no choices. And if you try it, and I do say if you can, give it a try, if you discover that you like doing more than one thing at a time on your phone a lot, I would go with Duo. If you're just all about YouTube videos as big as you can get them and web pages with more space, then great. And like I said in my Duo video, in a way, the Galaxy Z Fold answers a problem that we had. We all like our screens to be as big as possible, but now we're making phones as big as we possibly can. So we found a way to do that for you, to give you a tablet that does fit in your pocket at a certain price for now. And the Duo just introduces something totally new. It's the thing you didn't know you needed. So if you're captivated by that idea, by all means, explore the Duo. When it comes to camera, you know the story. You've seen the Duo beaten up on, and even I said it's one step above a potato camera. It's okay in daylight, great light. It's terrible in just about everything else. It's not a very good camera. Can they improve that with software? Yeah, I think that they could. Is there a Gcam port that does any better right now? No, not yet. Maybe there will be. But photography is so important to a lot of people in their phones that I think that that's going to really hold people back. Whereas with this, you've got triple cameras. You've got your main, your telephoto, your ultra wide, and you've got something that's around the same quality as a Galaxy S20 Plus, which is to say, darn good. It might not be S20 Ultra level, but it's also a less fussy camera in terms of depth and field. But this is a great camera phone. And speaking of that, you have more cameras because you have one on the front. So Samsung's design means they have to make it a bit more expensive and a bit thicker, because you don't just have that big capacious inner display, you have a display on the outside, because this one doesn't 360. The most that this does is open flat, right? So with a Microsoft device, like any yogaing laptop, yes, it opens flat, yes, it does this too. So there you go. So if you need your screen on the outside, instead of the expense and the added thickness, you just fold it in phone mode. And then you've got a screen on the outside, and you can switch between whichever of the two you want if it actually makes a difference to you. So that's actually kind of neat and interesting too. The rest of the specs, you know, the best I can say for the Duo is it reminds me of the original iPhone, which had no app store. And back then, feature phones had app stores that carriers offered even. You didn't have 3G yet. But we forgave it all those things because it opened up so many nifty usability paradigms and some things that were just delightful. Like on Duo, the way you can flick windows from one screen to the other, back and forth, and drag and hold, and make them go full screen, and switch from the front to the back pretty seamlessly. Still some bugs. I'm not saying they got it perfect yet, but it's ambitious and it's delightful to use. But is that worth giving up on specs? Well, this is why maybe you wait for Gen 2 or Gen 3. While Samsung has been making Galaxy phones for more than a decade, they have the formula down. And while the original Fold, it was sort of like the Duo in terms of compromises, small outer screen, ugly duckling, you know, those things. They have it so down now. It's hard to complain about anything other than the fact that it doesn't support a pen and the screen is more delicate than a normal phone. So with the Duo, we have so many concessions and specs. Snapdragon last year processor. To be honest, with most people, I don't think that's going to make a difference in your life. They're both very fast. On the Galaxy, we have the 865 with 5G built in. The thing that does bother me, though, you get 12 gigs of RAM on the Samsung, even though you probably won't be multitasking a lot, right? And that's where you really want more RAM. And the Duo, which is all about multitasking, only has 6 gigs of RAM. So that means rebooting it more often, really, to clean out memory or micromanaging your apps. Storage, they're both the same. No micro SD card slot. You can get up to 256 gigs of storage on them. When it comes to things like wireless charging, Samsung has it. When it comes to fast wired charging, the Duo is 18 watt versus 25 watts on the Galaxy. I don't think that's going to make much of a difference to you, the speed of those two charges, right? But the battery life on this, well, you know, the Duo does actually pretty well. It has a smaller battery, but not tiny for what it is, but it has a smaller battery. I've been getting around 6 hours of screen on time. It does depend on whether you're using one screen or both screens at the same time, right? With the Fold, I've been getting closer to 6.5 to 7 hours, so a bit better. Enough to make your decision based on that? No, not so much. So in the end, besides price being a factor, and both of these are so expensive that, well, what can I say there? It's going to come down to whether you want a pen. I think Note people might migrate to the Duo more than they would to the Z Fold, for example. And the fact that the Duo is a visionary product for people who see the use for that kind of multitasking. Once you try it, you might really like it. But it's very much a first-gen product with specs that are lagging behind. And they have some bugs to iron out. But Microsoft seems that they're going to have a very aggressive release schedule to address things and maybe even add a few features like tap to wake. I hope that they do. Whereas the Galaxy is such a mature product. I don't know how they went from the first Fold to the second Fold that fast. I mean, other than the price and the delicacy of the screen, that thing is perfect. It would be nice if it was thinner and it was lighter. I suppose in that way, that's how it could still evolve, obviously. Will it ever get as skinny as the Duo? I don't know about that. But hopefully these things help you. There's the two most amazing phones so far of 2020 and probably going into 2021. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit that notification bell so you know about them too.